Hey guys, what's up? Alex here. Welcome to the F1 2017 Classic Car Top Speed Test. So, thank you guys for the support on the last couple of videos. Really appreciate it. And hopefully we'll continue the videos here today with an interesting one. This is the classic cars, all going to be going round Baku once again, seeing their top speed as we head down to turn number 1. We're starting off here with the 1988 McLaren, the MP4/4. This is, I think, the one you get if you pre-order the copy or pre-order a special edition of the game, I think it is. I'm not too sure. But nonetheless, it's still a cool car, and I think we should include it in this list. Heading down to turn 1, what sort of speed do we get to in this car? Of course, it's an absolutely mad fast car in a straight line. And 194 is its top end speed here. Of course, back then the engines just going absolutely mental with the revs there. We're seeing nearly 13,000 revs as we hit 194 miles an hour here in Baku. But I think that's a pretty solid start here to this test. We're going to next move on to the 1991 McLaren. Of course, quite similar in its era, but 3 years apart. How much difference is it going to make to the top end speed? You'd assume more downforce on this car as the cars in Formula 1 evolve. They normally will generally get more downforce, meaning top end speed is going to be harder unless you have a better engine. So through the last couple of corners in Baku, down the straight now, how fast is this car going to be? Honestly, if I was going to predict, I would say this is going to be quicker than the 88 car, because I think the engine would have improved significantly over those 3 years. But then, is the downforce holding it back? 194 is now seen on the clock. We're going to go any faster? No, we're not. 194, so that's quite surprising for me there. The 91 McLaren doesn't go any quicker than the 88 one. Of course, the 88 car would have had less downforce and probably a worse engine, but you can see there we're nearly revving to 15,000 there in comparison to last time, was it nearly 13,000? So much more revs going on here in the 1991 McLaren, but no more top end speed, which is quite surprising. Let's move on to the 1992 Williams, driven by Nigel Mansell, of course, when he won his World Championship here. This is going to be an interesting one. The cars are starting to evolve into a bit more of a modern shape by this time here, and we'll see, is this going to be quicker than the 194 we've seen in the past from the two McLarens? So building up the speed once again through the left-right kink here in Baku. This is where you get a lot of your speed here because you don't have to back off, but the Williams, not as much downforce, so you see we actually had to lift off there in comparison to some of the other ones, but it shouldn't affect our top end speed here. So we're raging through the miles per hour here, already hitting 190, 191, 192. Are we not just going to get 192? But we're hitting the rev limiter here, so this is going to be our top end speed way before the end of the straight there, 192. So not that great from the Williams there, 2 miles an hour slower than the two McLarens before it. Not gonna lie, not that surprised with this result here. Did kind of expect this car to be a little bit slower in a straight line, but of course it still took Nigel Mansell to a World Championship and a very iconic car in Formula 1 nonetheless. Now, this is one of the less iconic cars, in my opinion, in the classic list. Probably the only one that hasn't really done much, actually, to be fair. I think all the other ones in the game actually have won World Championship. This is the only one that hasn't, remember correctly. This is the 1995 Ferrari, the season before Michael Schumacher joined the team. I was actually talking to David Greco, the handling guy over at Codemasters, and he was telling me, like, why was this in the game? I was like, what, this is a bit of a strange choice, isn't it? But it's obviously the last of the V12s before they switched to the V10s the year after, which we're going to see with the Williams next up. And also, it was actually a pretty good car. Apparently Michael Schumacher said that, like, how the hell did you not win the championship with this car? Because it's actually a really good car apparently, but just not the greatest drivers in the 1995 season for Ferrari, hitting 193 miles an hour, so a slight improvement on the Williams a few years before, but still slacking on the 88 McLaren and the 91 McLaren, who hit 194. That's an interesting little change there. I didn't expect, honestly, I would have said by this time I thought they would have been going faster, but the top end speed of the late 80s and early 90s was still a little bit faster. Now, next up with Damon Hill's 1996 World Championship winning car. This is when we'd switched to the V10 era of Formula 1. And you can see they are starting to look like more modern day Formula 1 cars at this point. I think between like 94 and 96 was when they really started evolving to looking like modern day Formula 1 cars. You went from the late 80s where they were quite massive, and they've sort of gone a little bit smaller with these sort of cars here, and this sort of evolved over the years, of course, but it sort of merged into the car we knew, or I knew through my time growing up and watching Formula 1 in the early 2000s. So what's this Williams going to do? 193 at the end of the straight once again, so that equals the Ferrari last time out. So even though it's not a V12, it's a V10, we're still getting the same top end speed there. So yeah, quite crazy revs there as well. And it's 16,000 RPM as we head down to turn 1 here in Baku. So that's very interesting. But next up is probably one of the more interesting ones for me, because this is when I sort of started watching Formula 1, was this era. So 1999, I was only 3 years old, so I probably wasn't watching F1 now, but this is the sort of era when the cars started looking like they did for the majority of my time watching Formula 1, from like the early 2000s to like 2008 was the last time they used this sort of style of car, with obviously not groove tyres, not slick tyres, and just the cars looking like they did with a certain aero package. So I was interested to see how fast this McLaren would be in a straight line. How fast it would be in a straight line. Are we going to finally hit the 200 barrier? Yes, we have. We've hit 200 miles an hour there. 201. And oh, it's bottoming out there a little bit, and it actually ducked down to 200 for a second there. So yeah, 201 looks like it's the top end speed here of the McLaren car from 1999. And yeah, I love the sound of these cars. These are the sounds of the cars that I listened to obviously when I was growing up watching Formula 1. So you do definitely miss them. It's nice to have them back in the game, much more authentic than they were in F1 2013. Massive improvement from the Cody's guys. Now moving on to 2002. I'm pretty sure this, like 2002, 2003, was probably my first season watching Formula 1. I remember I started properly watching Formula 1 every race, like religiously, obviously in 2007 when Lewis Hamilton came to the sport. But I'm pretty sure, it's hard to remember for me, but I'm pretty sure I watched pretty much everyone, F1 race before that. But it's just, when it was 2007, I was like, I've got to watch every race, or every practice session, every qualifying session, as much as I could. Before then, I didn't really care as much. But anyway, down the main straight here, in the 2002 Ferrari car. Look at the speed here, 207 miles an hour. Absolutely sublime speed here from the Ferrari. The power unit, or the engine back then in this car, must be absolutely fantastic for it to get to that sort of speed there. That's 2002, guys. That's 15 years ago. That is quite insane. That is quite insane there. So there we go, 2002 Ferrari, 207 miles an hour, blown away everything before it. And 99 McLaren, we just saw they did 201, so already 6 miles an hour faster. But I think this could be our eventual winner here. This is the 2004 Ferrari, probably one of the most dominant Formula 1 cars of all time. Michael Schumacher's last championship winning year in this car. How fast are we going to go in a straight line this one? We've already done a couple of videos on, including this car. I just absolutely love it. It's just such a nice car to drive and to listen to as well. 205, 206, we're going to match 207. There we go, we've hit 207. Are we going to hit 208 by the end of this straight? Yes, we have. We've beaten the O2 car there into the first corner. 208 is the fastest we have got in the 2004 Ferrari here. What a fantastic car. It wasn't so quick around the corners, but it was actually just such a quick car in a straight line. But you could see why it dominated. It was just so sublimely fast in a straight line, I'd say, and also just so quick around the corners as well. What an incredible car. What a historic car. And of course, driven by the legend himself, Michael Schumacher. Now we get into the slightly more modern era of these cars. 2006 now with Fernando Alonso's car here. Of course, this is when he won his second World Championship here in this car. I always get mixed up because the 2005 and 2006 season in my head just blurred together because, of course, Alonso won both of them. But yeah, Fernando Alonso in this car, what an incredible 2 seasons he had in F1 here, battling with Michael Schumacher for the World Championship. And, of course, these 2 years winning the World Championship set off for, well, I don't know, there was only 2 championships in Formula 1. They're over like 10 years ago now. But still, we see Fernando Alonso as one of the best drivers on the grid. And into turn 1, we see this wasn't the quickest car in a straight line. Of course, it had loads of downforce, but not the greatest power unit in the back of that car. They're only hitting 190 miles an hour, which so far is the slowest car, which is quite surprising. That car that's just over 10 years old is actually the slowest car on this grid so far. But I suppose we got into the era here where loads of downforce was key and the power unit wasn't so much of an issue because you could keep up that speed through the corners instead of making it up in the straights. But the 2007 Ferrari, of course, propelled Kimi Raikkonen to the World Championship by 1 point. We remember that famous race in Brazil when Hamilton threw it away. Well, no, he didn't throw it away, really. He had engine problems, so fair play to him. He fought back from it, but Raikkonen was still champion after Massa moved aside to let him win the race. So, how quick is this car going to be in a straight line? We've already beaten the 06 Renault before we even got onto the straight. And down into the first corner, what's it going to be? 196, 197. Are we going to get over 200? Doesn't look like it here. We're going to hit 198 at all. No, it's hitting 197 a long way down this straight here. So 197 seems to be what this Ferrari is geared for here. And I must mention, I haven't changed the setup on any of these cars. They're all exactly the same. The start of it's done by the AI as well. So I'm not judging the start as well. It's all down to the AI. So I don't do any warm-up of the tyres or anything. I don't do anything particular for other cars. They're all exactly the same. This is test as fair as it can possibly be. And let's compare that 2007 Ferrari now to the 2008 McLaren, of course, taking Lewis Hamilton to his first of 3 current world championships. So is his car going to be able to go quicker in a straight line than the previous year's Ferrari? So I honestly do feel through 07 and 08, both times, I think the McLaren probably came out on top. I don't know, it's such a tough one because they were so close the whole season, both of them. It's really tough to know which one was actually quicker of the whole season. I always had in my head that 07 McLaren had a better car than Ferrari and vice versa in 08, but it's the way it goes. Nonetheless, into turn 1, what are we going to see? 194 from McLaren? Yeah, 194. So 3 miles an hour slower in a straight line than the 2007 Ferrari here. So now we're going to move into, in a second now, the last car we've got in the classic content pack in F1 2017. Let me know in the comment section down below which one of these cars you've enjoyed driving the most if you're watching after release date, or if you're watching before release date, which car are you looking forward to driving most, of course, because these are integrated into the career mode. So really interesting for Codemaster to do that, and we're all going to have the opportunity to play with these in the career mode. You guys might have seen my career mode yesterday. If you haven't, check it out. There'll be over on my channel. There will be a link in the description because I'll probably forget. But over on my channel, the first episode of the career mode will include the Australian Grand Prix and also a little bit of racing in the classic cars. You guys will enjoy that. But last car, 2010 Red Bull. Now, of course, this car only just about got the championship in the last race of the season. Ferrari looked like they were going to get it, but this was the first of Sebastian Vettel's 4 world championships in the Red Bull team. Into turn 1, what's it going to be? 186. Wow. That's 4 miles an hour slower than anything else we've had so far. So the slowest car before this was the 2006 Renault with 190. This has got 186. That's quite surprising. So let's have a look at this full list now. Which was the fastest car in a straight line? Really interesting to see. It was a 2004 Ferrari at 208. 2002 cars on 207. 1999 McLaren was on 201. They're the only 3 cars to get over 200 miles an hour. 2007 Ferrari 197. Then we've got 3 cars with a 194. The 98 McLaren, the 88 McLaren, the 91 McLaren, and the 2008 McLaren. They love that 194 top speed, don't they, McLaren? Both in 6th place as well as the 95 Ferrari and the 96 Williams on 193. 92 Williams was on 192. And then in 8th place was the 2006 Renault. I'm surprised to see that one so far down on 190 miles per hour. And 9th place and last place by quite a distance was the 2010 Red Bull. We knew that car didn't have great top-end speed, but was incredibly quick around the corners. So an incredible 22 miles an hour from the fastest to the slowest car in a straight line in F1 2017, guys. And especially because the 2010 Red Bull and the 2004 Ferrari are in the same grid in the classic cars, you guys need to race against those two when you're racing. It's really, really interesting. It's so track dependent on which one's better. So thanks for watching, guys. Please remember to leave a like on the video. Enjoy. Subscribe to my channel if you are new. Daily videos of F1 2017 and live streams hopefully starting soon as well. Thanks for watching, guys. Have an epic day and I'll see you guys soon. Goodbye.